Batman. He's one of the most recognizable superheroes of this generation and of all time. Through movies, through games, through toy lines, even animated shows, Batman is one of the greatest. In this one, I'm going to be talking about his live action movies in this part of Batman Month. First off, let's start off with Batman. Now, this one was a revolutionary movie at the time. Superman had just burned out at just everywhere. Superman 4 had failed, flopped, didn't really do so good with the critics and with the people in general. So they kind of burned back on the whole making superhero movies in the 80s. However, in 1989, Batman finally came to the big screen.
Weird old man. Can't run this city without me. Your luck is about to change.
Not counting the serials of the very early 40s. This would be one of the greatest openings to a movie based on a comic book people have seen at that time. Batman took everybody by storm. It rejuvenated the character because at the time, Batman, well, let's just say that Batman had finally started to be dark again. Before this, the Silver Age, yeah, Batman was not dark. Batman was going into space. Batman was fighting these Martians. Batman was had battle armor and different colored bat suits. It was crazy. Go see Batman Brave and the Bold if you really want to get a sense of the Silver Age of Batman. But anyway, let's get back to Batman. Now, Tim Burton directs this movie, and while I am a fan of Tim Burton, I love his visual style. Not a big fan of his story sometimes, and it kind of shows in this one because this one is not really about Batman. This movie is centered around Jack Nicholson's Joker, and a lot of people are fine with that, seeing as how Jack did an amazing job as Joker, but I kind of would have wanted, at the time, had I seen this, I kind of would have wanted a little bit more backstory to Batman because, well, that's the character title of the movie. The visual art style of the movie, again, it's just breathtaking. It's stunning. Tim Burton knows how to do special effects. Tim Burton knows how to do backgrounds. He knows how to create this essence that you're really in the movie. And it shows. It really does. The Batmobile looks awesome in this movie, probably one of my favorites. And I just love the dark atmosphere in the movie, the dark creepiness that not many people got to see before this movie came out. I know a lot of people saw this in The Dark Knight Returns, which is a graphic novel, but they've never seen it on the big screen before, quite like this. Now the characters. Michael Keaton as Batman at the time was hated upon. They said there's no way Michael Keaton could and should play Batman. There's no way. We don't want him to. However, he did an amazing job as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. He's not my favorite, but it's still awesome. And of course, the star of the show, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. This guy, nowadays, he's hammy. He's kind of threatening. I mean, just watch the art museum scene in the movie, and you can tell how much fun these guys were having with this movie. However, it kind of again sets it back because again, we learn more about the Joker than we do Batman, and that's not really a good thing because we should know more about the hero and his backstory rather than the villain because it creates much more suspense than it should. And again, it shows with this movie. Again, I didn't really like the story a lot of the movie, especially when Batman's girlfriend, Vicky Vale, was introduced to the Batcave. Yeah, I was not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of that at all. But overall, Batman 1, it's a good movie. It still stands the test of time, this generation. just because of the dark atmosphere of the movie, the funny characters, and just the overall good sense of just what a comic book movie should be. I give it an 8 out of 10.
I'm Batman.
Next up, Batman Returns. This one was more hated upon than the original movie, but in my opinion, I actually like it more than Batman 1. Yes, I know, I'm crazy, but I like it better. Now, let's first talk the characters. Batman, he's probably the same as always. He still goes out and everything. He's maybe a little bit darker in this movie than he is in the first one because, well, he actually kills people. If you don't know, he actually, like, shoves a bomb down this guy and yeah, he explodes. So yeah, he kills people in this movie. And it's much more violent than the first movie. And that's from one of them is from Danny DeVito as the Penguin. This guy is hammy. Like, I cannot believe how hammy this guy is. He bites off the nose of the current mayor of Gotham City, because of his out of control nature. He assembles a giant army of penguins towards the end of the movie. He shows his flipper trick. Yeah, it's really, really weird, but I don't know. I like him, you know. He's deranged, he's psychopathic, he's just crazy. And again, the same problem with the first movie comes back with this. We know more about the villains than we do the hero. Next, let's talk about Catwoman. And if you were a kid back then, you know how Catwoman was. You know, just wow. If this is how Catwoman was back in the day, then wow. She's a psychopathic going through this kind of amnesia thing. She's not really a hero, she's not really a villain. She just does her own thing. Sometimes she helps Batman, sometimes she's fighting him on top of a roof, and then after the fight she starts licking him, and then again she does flips, backflips, blows up malls. It's really weird. We don't know a whole lot about this character. However, we're introduced to who she really was in the beginning. She worked for another villain in the movie. Yes, there's three villains in this movie. Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. And yes, he is over the top and hammy as usual. However, he's played a little bit lesser tone in this movie to make more way for Catwoman, Batman, and the Penguin. He basically Max Schreck is just this big, over the top businessman who is the reason why Selena Kyle became Catwoman and is the reason why the Penguin came out into public and is going for a job in mayor. Yes, the Penguin is going for a job in office in Gotham. Batman doesn't like it, so he sets up all these really funny tricks, and let's just say Penguin is not happy. So he intends to destroy all of Gotham to the most ridiculous way ever, through stealing their firstborn children and putting them onto these really big duck boats. You just have to see the movie to find out. Okay, so overall, Batman Returns, it's much more darker than the original. Much more darker. Before Batman Begins, it was probably the most dark Batman probably has ever been. But overall, it's a much more enjoyable movie than the first Batman movie is. I know, I'm crazy. Crazy to think about it, but I just love the characters. I love Batman still in this movie. I love the action. There's much more action in the movie. It's just an overall enjoyable experience. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now, after Batman Returns, Tim Burton was reduced to a producer. Many people think he left Batman after that, or Warner Brothers just cut the plug on him, but no, he stayed as a producer for the next movie, directed by Joel Schumacher, Batman Forever.
I'll get drive-through.
This is probably my least favorite Batman movie out of all of them. Yes, including the next one we're going to talk about after this one. First, let's start off with Batman, played by Val Kilmer. Probably not the worst Batman ever, but he's very monotone. Not a big fan of this Batman. And then, of course, we're introduced to the good old Robin. Good old Robin, oh boy. Now, they introduced Robin basically as a ploy of saying, hey, we're sorry, Batman Returns scared the living shit out of your children. So here's Robin, the boy wonder in this movie. I hate how they did Robin in here. I hate how they did him in here. Robin is not a whiny little sack of shit who basically complains throughout the whole movie. That's all he does. Excluding the end, all he does is just complain throughout the whole movie. And it's sickening because that's not how Robin is portrayed in both the comics, the animated shows, except for maybe Batman the Brave and the Bold, but in Teen Titans especially, that is not how Robin is portrayed. Robin is basically a badass. Okay, and you reduced him to a whiny little bitch. Doesn't listen to Batman. Gets himself into trouble all the time. It's annoying. Next, we'll talk about the two villains in the movie. First off is the one that I can actually stomach through Batman Forever, and is the reason why I was able to kind of enjoy this one. The Riddler, played by Jim Carrey. Now, this guy was coming off a hot streak in Hollywood. He came out with Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. This guy was at the top of Hollywood in the 90s. The Riddler, he's basically Jim Carrey. He's over the top, you know, he's basically this zany guy who in this movie is a psychopath and wants to kill people through sucking out their brains. And it's a really weird story. It's a really weird story. But yeah, we actually get to see his origin and everything, which, is okay and everything. I like how Batman Forever actually pays more attention to Batman and Robin than the villains. Though at the same time, the Riddler is way over marketed. It was way over marketed. And the Riddler isn't even the main villain. The main villain is Two-Face, played by Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, that's right. There's another villain in here. Now, Tommy Lee Jones, not a good decision for Two-Face because it's really weird if you think about it. Like Tommy Lee Jones is Two-Face. How can they pull that off? And it shows. He's basically another Riddler. Two-Face. Two-Face is another Riddler, another Jim Carrey in this movie. He's over the top. He just laughs the whole movie while Riddler makes the plans. And he just flips the coin and just laughs. We see like a very brief, one little 30-second clip of how he became Two-Face, and it's unsatisfying. Like the villains in this movie, they have no motive. And Batman and Robin have to have this relationship and group together, beat the bad guys, and save the day. Overall, without Jim Carrey as the Riddler, this movie would be very boring. And it shows. There's no funny parts in the movie except for Jim Carrey. Two-Face is just this gaggling moron, which he is not in the comics, by the way. You'll see a really good Two-Face later on. And overall, it's just okay. Again, it's my least favorite of the Batman movies. I give it a 5 out of 10. 5 is being generous for the Riddler. And now, this movie.
Chicks dig the car. This is why Superman works alone.
People, I have a soft spot for this movie, mainly because I grew up with it. It was the first Batman movie I ever saw. It was released in 1997. I think you all know this. Batman and Robin. First, let's start off with the direction of this movie. Now, Batman Forever got a little bit lighter than Batman Returns. It had a really big neon light show mainly from it, but at the same time, it wasn't really that comically light. It wasn't really over the top light in this movie. Batman Forever had its dark moments and everything, and I appreciate it for that. But Batman and Robin was just comical in general. It was cheesy. It was back to the Adam West Batman show, and it's kind of an homage, which I can kind of appreciate them for doing that, but at the same time, it does not work as a movie. It does not work as a movie. Once again, there are three villains in this movie. Let's start off with the main one, Poison Ivy. Now, Poison Ivy, I did not like this character. She was basically a feminist and an environmentalist, and she just cared about plants. She just cared about plants. She just cared about, saving Gotham from George Clooney as Batman, who wants to shut down her plant research project, and that's the whole reason why she wants to get back at him. Ugh, it's just terrible. And Uma Thurman, yeah, she's hot as Poison Ivy and everything, but that's all she is, just hot. Uma Thurman can be in good movies. She was in Kill Bill. She can do good movies, people. It was really terrible. It was a really terrible choice. Next, let's go with Mr. Freeze. Yay. Now, he's probably the most comical and entertaining villain in this whole movie. And played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, you can kind of tell he wanted a paycheck in this movie. Because Arnold in the 90s, after Terminator 2, yeah, he kind of went downhill. However, Mr. Freeze, again, probably the most entertaining thing in this whole movie. He makes nothing but ice puns. He wants to freeze Gotham, and he wants to get back his cryogenically frozen wife. It's hilarious. It's hilarious how he portrays Mr. Freeze. And yes, I know Mr. Freeze is not supposed to be this comical person. Yes, he made ice jokes before, but not to this point, man. Oh my God. If you've ever heard like these kind of jokes before, like ice to meet you, and it'll be a cool day in hell, hell freezeth over. You're never gonna live again. You're never going to experience life again. But yeah, he's probably the most entertaining part of this whole movie. And that's not saying much, but it's comical. Can give him that. Next, let's go to Bane. And yes, Bane is in this movie for maybe about 5 scenes in the whole movie. What he is, people, he's a staggering buffoon who just flexes his muscles, grunts, and just throws Batman around. Like one scene, he gets defeated, and that's it. That's Bane. That's Bane. Probably the worst villain in all the movies leading up to this one. Bane was terrible in this movie. Terrible. Now let's get to George Clooney as Batman. And he was just alright. He was probably the worst Batman out of all of these leading up to this one. Because, again, he's just comical. He pulls out the back credit card, which I think we've all seen that scene before. You know, his first line in the movie is, "Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman." Oh, it's just terrible. It's terrible, people. It's basically, again, an homage to the Adam West Batman, but again, did they really have to do it? Did they really have to do it like this? No. No, they didn't. They didn't have to do it like this. And then again, Robin, played by Chris O'Donnell, is back. He's still this whiny little bitch who falls in love with Poison Ivy because she basically seduces him and everything. Oh, it's terrible. And then towards the end of the movie, the butler got sick and everything, and hey, Alfred's sickness is the same, basically the same cure, the cure Mr. Freeze's wife is the same cure to heal Alfred. What a coincidence! And then at the end of the movie, basically, it turns out Poison Ivy was going to betray Mr. Freeze and everything. Mr. Freeze gets pissed towards the end of the movie. Poison Ivy probably gets frozen into an icicle. Mr. Freeze is in jail. Alfred's healed, and we get introduced to Batgirl. Yeah, Batgirl's in this movie. That's what? That's 6 characters from the Batman universe ruined. Yep, that's 6 characters. 7 if you include Alfred. Yeah, Batgirl's in this movie, and I never liked Batgirl. Nope, never liked her. From the comics to, well, the animated series I can tolerate, but this one, I just didn't like Batgirl. Batgirl's just terrible in this movie. Played by Alicia Silverstone. Just like Batman and Robin have bat nipples on her bat suit. And again, it's just all one-liners with her. It just is. Overall, Batman and Robin, it's not the worst Batman movie. I'd say that goes to Batman Forever, but Batman and Robin, it's comical. Bring a couple of friends over, riff on this movie, you'll have a good time. I give it a 6 out of 10, and that's being generous, people. Now, after Batman Forever, things got really rocky for comic book movies. Batman Triumphant was supposed to come out, and Scarecrow was supposed to be the villain, but that got plunged down. There was supposed to be a Batman versus Superman movie, but that got plugged too. And just superheroes on the big screen in general in the 90s just fell. It just fell, people. It wasn't until X-Men came out in 2000 did the comic book movies start resurging again. And then Spider-Man came out and everyone loved comic book movies again. So, DC was finally able to release a new Batman movie. They were confident with this one. It was by a new director, new producer, new everything. Everybody from the original Batman movies were just gone. New guys were in, and it was for the best because we got Batman Begins.
How do you know my name? The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
Your parents' death was not your fault.
Now, Batman Begins is basically a reboot of the entire Batman series in general. It tells a much more detailed story about Bruce Wayne, how he became Batman, how he studied Batman, how, he wasn't this comical one-liner Batman, he had this gravely voice to intimidate, you know, criminals. And yes, a lot of people make fun of Batman's voice, but at the same time, yes, it's comical, but at the same time, it intimidates people. Like, if somebody came up to you and started growling that at nighttime with nobody else around in the dark alley, you'd be scared of shit too. Don't deny it. You'd be scared of shit too. Now, this one had Scarecrow, aka Jonathan Crane, and Scarecrow in this one, I'm not a really big fan of because he gets defeated in probably the most bullshit way ever a villain can be defeated. Basically, Rachel Dawes tases him, he goes out into the night, and that's about it. He doesn't really have this really big conflict with Batman. However, Scarecrow, in all defense, he wasn't supposed to be the main villain. The main villain in this movie is Ra's al Ghul, played by the one and only Liam Neeson. Yeah, you're excited for that one. Now, Ra's al Ghul is probably the most important villain in the entire Dark Knight trilogy because the League of Shadows comes back into play in The Dark Knight Rises, and it's basically a big old circle. Bruce Wayne actually trained through the League of Shadows and came back to Gotham as basically this Batman ninja. And it was awesome, people. It was awesome to see Christopher Nolan, who was the director of the movie. It was awesome to see Nolan take this character who in the movies was just down on his luck and brought him back to relevance again. This and Spider-Man 2 both see the hero as basically this ordinary guy who can be believable. These believable superheroes in the movies. And it showed. People really loved Batman Begins. It was a huge step in the right direction. And if it weren't for this movie, we've never gotten the next one in this. I give Batman Begins a 9 out of 10. Next, let's go to probably the most popular one ever, The Dark Knight.
I've seen now what would have to become to stop men like him.
The night is darkest just before the dawn. I promise you, the dawn is coming.
I remember seeing so many advertisements for the Dark Knight. Dark Knight this, Dark Knight that. And I was pumped. I was pumped, people. And especially the way I saw Heath Ledger in the trailers, it really made me sad that just such a great actor was taken away from us so fast. And this film is his magnum opus. It's one of his greatest achievements ever. And it shows because he won the Oscar for it. Now let's get into The Dark Knight. Now, I forgot to mention in my Batman Begins review that there's a new Batman. This one is played by Christian Bale. Bale is probably my favorite Batman ever. He's believable. He has that dark, raspy voice that intimidates foes. He's sympathetic at the same time. You know, he plays this rich boy, kind of rich playboy millionaire persona, but he's not that. He's not the stereotypical rich millionaire guy. He's more down to earth and more concerned with Gotham's protection, which I like that. I like how basically when he's around all his friends and all of Gotham and everything, he has no clue who Batman is. He has no clue who he is. He's just this rich millionaire who doesn't give a fuck. And I like that. I like how he has this dual personality. So let's get into the villains in The Dark Knight. First off, we have the Joker. And this one, we know much less about the Joker, and we know much more about Batman, which how it should be. I like how Christopher Nolan was able to tell Batman's story. You know, he told Joker as just this really mysterious figure. You know, he can be believable, he can be this ordinary guy and everything, just doing these really weird and creepy things. But at the same time, he's also this really psychopathic, deranged maniac. And I love that. I love that. This is probably my favorite Joker in the Batman movie universe. Now, many people are not a big fan of this Joker, mainly because he's not the same as Jack Nicholson's Joker. He's not hammy like the Mark Hamill Joker, but at the same time, what Heath Ledger did actually was that he combined basically every single Joker into his own. He made his own and he combined all the other ones into one. You even get a little bit of sense of Cesar Romero. Yeah, that's right. Watch the Adam West Batman again and tell me that laugh did not kind of remind you of Cesar Romero. It was utter brilliance how he was able just to combine all these different personas into one, and it was just amazing, people. Next, let's talk about Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart. And at first, Harvey Dent was basically this white knight, this shining armor of Gotham. He was taking out criminals, bringing them to their knees, and just bringing back Gotham to a safe and peaceful place. Till the Joker came in and basically turned that upside down. Half his face ended up being melted off, burned off, just disintegrated. He looked terrible towards the end of the movie. And after that, Joker basically manipulated him. He turned this White Knight into a demon, basically. And then throughout the rest of the movie, he's just focused on revenge. Getting back to everybody that did not stop the Joker. Because yeah, he still hates the Joker, but at the same time, he said at the end of the movie that Joker was right about the morals, about how nobody can be this perfect being. And again, it shows because he ended up basically dying towards the end of the movie. And while I would have liked more screen time with Two-Face, I enjoyed I enjoyed his presence and I liked how Nolan basically portrayed him. I liked how he portrayed him and everything. Overall, The Dark Knight, visually stunning, visually stunning. It's just this amazing roller coaster of a ride that you'll probably never get tired of. Me, I've watched this movie probably the most out of all the Batman movies. It's an amazing ride. I love it. One of my favorite movies of all time. I give this a 10 out of 10. And now The Dark Knight Rises.
I'm adaptable.
What are you?
I'm Gotham's reckoning.
This is the last movie in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, and he goes out with a bang. Not as good as The Dark Knight, but still an amazing, amazing, well put together movie. First off, let's start off with the villains. In this one, we have Bane, played by Tom Hardy. But if you saw him, you would never have guessed that was Tom Hardy. Going up to this movie, I completely forgot that Tom Hardy played Bane because he looks so radically different than any other Bane was in both the comics, the animated series, and Batman Forever. But I don't think that even was Bane. I'm just going to skip by that one, and we're going to go to the Dark Knight Rises one. This one was probably the most threatening villain in probably the whole entire Christopher Nolan trilogy. Probably more threatening than Joker was. Joker threatened to blow up bridges. Bane destroyed those bridges. He destroyed football fields. He destroyed Gotham. He put Gotham under this huge lockdown to where if anybody left, the whole city would have been destroyed by this huge nuclear bomb. And he was probably the most threatening villain in the trilogy. He was the one that was able to guess who Batman was. He was able to bring him to his knees. He literally broke his back, sent him into this very far away, distant prison gate. He had he had to give 3 months at least to get pumped up, ready again, face him again, and when he came back, he was able to defeat him. However, Bane had basically taken over Gotham. That's one thing that many movies do not do. Let the villain win for a certain amount of time. You can't let the villain win for the whole movie, but at the same time, the villain basically won throughout almost an entire half hour, 45 minutes in the movie. The villain was basically living the hot life. He basically had won. He had set up his own courts, played by and Jonathan Crane. His Scarecrow is actually the judge, which I find that hilarious. And I actually like that. He had more screen time than the Dark Knight, because yeah, he was in the Dark Knight, but he was only there for like 5 minutes, which I didn't really like that much. But anyway, so yeah, basically all the rich people brought down to their knees. Basically Gotham is this hellhole again. All the villains were released because it turns out that Bane had discovered that Harvey Dent wasn't really this white knight as he was, and he had revealed that he did all these things. So now all the villains are set free in Gotham. It's total chaos. And towards the end of the movie, it's basically a war movie. Yeah, it's basically a war movie towards the last half hour. And it's probably the most visually stunning and captivating war movie I've seen in a long time, people. It was exhilarating. It was amazing. Next, let's get to the second villain, I would say. No, not really a villain, but let's talk about Catwoman. Now, Catwoman is played by Anne Hathaway, who is probably the best Catwoman, probably in the whole Batman universe concerning the movies and everything, much better than the Batman Returns Catwoman, which I didn't really like that much. It was just way too creepy, way too weird. I didn't really like it. Now, this Catwoman is much more down to earth. This one is much more of a thief. It's more of a thief, more of kind of like a sneaker, going around, more of a detective. She actually knows her ways and everything. She doesn't have to be saved by Batman all the time. And sometimes she'd be on Batman's side, other times she'd be on Bane's side. Betrayed him and everything, which is the reason why Batman's back got broke in the first place, was because she led him to Bane. And she was probably one of the best parts in the movie. I liked how she had action action scenes with Batman and everything, work together towards the end of the movie, and I liked it. Next, let's talk about Alfred, voice played by Michael Caine. And he's probably my favorite Alfred in the whole Batman movies. I love I love his morals. I love how he gives all these big speeches to Batman and all the other characters. I love how he was just so down to earth, and he loved serving he loved serving Bruce. You know, he was basically a father figure to him when he had no parents, he had no family. And finally, let's talk about Batman himself. Batman is at his lowest in this movie. It's been 8 years since The Dark Knight. The last time anybody had seen Batman, Bruce Wayne is basically in his mansion. He's down on his luck. He's crippled. He's on a cane. His health is deteriorating. And even as Batman, you can kind of see that, he's out of it. He's out of his game. Towards the end of the movie, he's much more focused and everything. But at the same time, I mean, he's probably at his lowest in this movie. And I like how Christopher Nolan was able to bring this really huge character and bring him down to earth, bring him down to, the regular citizen's needs. But overall, I love this movie. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I love the visuals. I love the character development. I love how it ended. I loved I loved the soundtrack of this movie. I loved everything about this movie. There was maybe two things that I just did not like or just didn't make sense in the movie, but at the same time, it does not stop me from giving this movie a 9.5 out of 10. It's an amazing thrill ride. You'll love it to the end. I love this movie. So thank you for joining me in part one of Batman Month. Next up, we're going to be talking about the animated series. We're going to be talking about all the cartoons. There's more Batman to come, people. Trust me. I'll see you guys later.